Hello and welcome back to my channel. I am Alison. I write as Alison May, 50% of Juliet Bell, and most recently as Sinclair. I was going to hold an actual physical book up there, but I don't have one to hand, so most recently as Sinclair. I write romantic comedies and general fiction, and I also work as a freelance editor, writing tutor and mentor, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Specifically, we're going to talk about choosing the right writing tutor or mentor for you, because there are loads out there these days. There are lots of people offering mentoring services, one-to-one support, manuscript critiques, writing tutorials, writing editorial services, and choosing who to work with and whether you need to work with anyone at all can be really, really tricky. So that's what we are talking about today. I haven't been around on YouTube for the last few weeks because I've had a horrendous virus, very little voice, lots of coughing fits. So I have my trusty water. I really only just got over the coughing fits from having COVID in June. So yay! Functioning immune system would be delightful. Really looking forward to getting one of those one day. Anyway, if we have to take a cough break, I apologise in advance. So, if you are thinking that you might like some one-to-one support, some mentoring, maybe a manuscript critique to help develop your writing, the first thing to ask yourself is, what do you need? The vast majority of clients who approach me for one-to-one support ask me in the first instance to edit their novel. And hardly any of them actually want me to edit their novel. I would say about 50% of them want a critique or an appraisal of their novel. And the other 50% actually don't need that at all. What they need is just a space to talk about their novel, talk about their story outline, help focus their thinking. And that can very often be done in a one-off, one-to-one, which is, for me certainly, and for most writing tutors and mentors, significantly cheaper than having someone read the full manuscript and give critique on it. So the first question is, what do you actually need? Now, right at the start of that, I mentioned people asking for edits when actually what they needed was a manuscript critique. So let's talk about the difference between those two things. Now, some mentors and editors won't have a difference. They will consider a structural edit and a manuscript appraisal to essentially be the same thing, but I do think they're quite substantially different, and I think it is worth being aware of which you need and which you're going to get from a particular provider. So, a structural edit or a content edit focuses on the structure of your story, the characterisation, the setting, the bigger picture stuff in your story. It's not a line-by-line edit, it's not a proofread checking your grammar and punctuation. It's looking at the actual structure, the bones and the content of the book. And when I do a structural edit for someone, all I am focused on is getting that book as close to being publication ready as we can at the structural stage. So what I will send to those people is usually relatively short, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 sides of A4, which is very focused on fixing this particular manuscript. That's what an edit is. It is focused on this particular manuscript. Now, if you are a smart author, you will be able to learn from that edit and apply some of what you learn to future books. But that isn't my focus when I'm doing the edit. My focus isn't on teaching you and developing you. My focus is on getting this specific manuscript publication ready. Whereas, if I do a manuscript critique, I'm absolutely looking at this particular manuscript, but I'm also looking at the writer and saying, what does the writer need to develop more to take themselves forward into their writing career? Not just with this book, but with future books. So if I think, okay, the characterisation is weak here, I'm not just going to say in a manuscript critique, you need to strengthen the characterisation of your antagonist because he seems very thin on the page at the moment. I'm going to talk about why you need to do that. I'm going to talk about how you might do that, and I'm going to offer some advice more generally about characterisation and building three-dimensional characters, because I'm not interested solely in this one manuscript. I'm interested in helping the author develop skills that will take them on to their next manuscript, and the manuscript after that, and the manuscript after that. So that's a little snapshot of the difference between an edit and a manuscript critique, but that comes under that heading of that bigger question of what do you need? And I'm going to put a big asterisk next to that and ask you another question, which is, do you need external paid support at all? Now, this is where things get a little bit controversial. If you're planning on self-publishing your book, I would absolutely encourage you to get a professional edit, and probably a professional copy edit and or proofread as well. I would advise you to pay for at least 2 of those, structural edit, copy edit, proofread, to get your manuscript as publication ready and as professional as it can be. If you're planning to submit to traditional publishers though, generally the cost of editorial is borne by the publisher. So at that point, I generally am a little wary of offering to edit manuscripts that are going to be submitted for traditional publication, because that effectively is you as a new author taking a cost away from the publisher, bearing it yourself, and then presenting them with a manuscript that needs very little editorial work. Publishers obviously love that because it's less work for them to do, but I kind of think ethically it's work they should be doing. The flip side of that is, because there are so many people out there now offering editorial services, lots and lots of manuscripts will have been professionally edited before they're sent to publishers. So your manuscript is competing with those. It's a tricky one. However, if you think you want some external input into your manuscript and you think you'd rather do that on a paid basis rather than just asking a friend, I would really strongly suggest that you go for something more developmental, a manuscript appraisal, a manuscript critique, rather than just an edit, because that's something that's going to develop you as a writer more clearly, and that's more you making an investment in your own development rather than just paying to do the publisher's job for them. So that's a little question mark. Do you actually need to pay out any money at all? If you decide you do, if you decide, yes, I want a manuscript critique, or I want to work one-to-one with someone, I want someone giving me that ongoing support, how do you pick the right person? This is just a little really quick checklist of things that I would look out for. Number 1, look for someone who is open to answering questions and is open with you about how they work and what they can and can't offer you. If you have someone who says, I will do this is exactly what I'll do, this is the only thing I'll do, and you ask questions and they get shirty with you, their attitude is, well, this is what I offer, you pay your money and let's get on with it, maybe back away. I absolutely think that it is part of my job as a writing mentor to meet writers where they are, find out what they need, and then be really honest about A, whether I can provide it, and B, what the likely costs and timescales are going to be. You should be able to have that conversation up front. If someone balks at that, that for me is a really big red flag. Number 2, don't be scared to ask for testimonials. If someone is brand new to this role, they should be telling you that up front, and they should be explaining why they don't have testimonials. If someone has been doing this for a while, working with authors for a while, they should have testimonials and they should have clients who they can refer to say, yes, I work with this person, I work with this person, and even put you in touch with them. So don't be afraid to ask for testimonials. Look at what expertise they're claiming to have. Nobody in this industry is brilliant at everything. So, for example, I generally speaking don't take children's manuscripts and I don't take horror when I'm working with adult fiction. Occasionally I will take a children's manuscript, but only after I've had a conversation with the author that says this is not my core area of expertise. are you sure you wouldn't like me to signpost you to someone more appropriate? And occasionally, if it's someone I've worked with before or they've been on my courses, they will say, no, I'd like you to look at it. And that's fine. They're making an informed choice. But generally speaking, I say that those things fall outside of my expertise. Similarly, I don't do copy editing. I don't do proofreading, simply because I'm not particularly good at them. So I don't offer those services. So if someone says, I'm brilliant at everything, I can mentor you, I can edit your novel, I can proofread your novel, take that with a pinch of salt. They may be brilliant. They may be not entirely being truthful with you or possibly with themselves about their expertise. I don't know what number we're up to. I'm going to guess about 4. Number 4, are they respectful of your budget? If you come to say someone and say, I've got my manuscript, it's at this stage, I've got X pounds to spend, what can you offer me? And they come back to you and say, well, you need this, it's X pounds times 3. They're not being respectful of what you've told them. They're not listening properly to you. They might come back to you and say, there's not much I can offer in that price bracket, I'm afraid, I'm really sorry. Or they might come back and say, okay, in that price bracket, we can only do X and Y. You would probably also benefit from Z, but I appreciate that that's out of your reach at the moment. But if someone is not respectful of your budget and is not prepared to have that conversation, again, big red flag. Similarly, and linked to that, number 5, just be a little bit wary of upselling. Look, we all have bills to pay and we all have businesses to run. So absolutely, anytime I'm teaching a course, I will be making people aware of what else I have available. But if you feel like someone is trying to lock you in to a situation where you are just inevitably giving them increasing sums of money over time, and you think you've signed up for something that's going to be, say, £300, and then they go, oh, well, obviously you also need this, which is another 100. Obviously you also need this, which is another however much. Well, now we've got your manuscript to this stage, I can do this for you, which is this much. And it's constantly like you're on a kind of rail tracks that you can't get off, of handing over more and more money. Big red flag, walk away. And finally, number 6, look out for realistic promises. If someone tells you, I can get your book published by a big house publisher, unless they're an editor at a big house publisher, they have already made your manuscript and they have already taken it to an acquisitions meeting, they are lying to you. Nobody can promise you that. Someone might say, previous clients have gone on to be published by X, Y and Z. Great, good to know what the track record is. But if someone is making you promises that seem too good to be true, they're probably too good to be true. Run away. Okay, I think here endeth today's lesson. Those are my snapshot thoughts on picking a writing mentor and finding the right person for you. I hope those are useful. Cough permitting, I will see you back here next week. So long.